We all bend the truth to save our skin, but these people snapped it in half. From blaming gravity for skipping class to citing ghost law in federal court, these are 49 of the most insane, delusional, and creatively bankrupt excuses ever recorded. Whether it's facing a judge, a cop, or a very tired shift manager, let's see just how dumb human beings can get when caught red-handed. 1. You almost have to respect the sheer audacity of this teenager's commitment to the bit. After getting caught red-handed sneaking into a movie theater through the emergency exit, he didn't panic or apologize. Instead, he adjusted his glasses, figuratively speaking, and informed the security team that he was actually conducting a social experiment on herd behavior. He claimed his only goal was to see if other patrons would blindly follow his law-breaking lead like sheep. Unfortunately for our young sociologist, the only herd behavior observed was the security guards flocking together to throw him out. They decided his findings were inconclusive and escorted him straight to the lobby, proving that the only thing peer-reviewed that night was his ban from the cinema. 2. We all know the heartbreak of pulling up to the drive-thru only to hear those dreaded words, "The ice cream machine is down." But one teen in Nevada took that frustration to a revolutionary level. He physically climbed the restaurant's towering outdoor sign, clinging to the plastic logo like a fast food King Kong, screaming to the heavens that the people deserved McJustice. You have to admit, he is fighting the real battles. Police and staff eventually talked him down, not with a hostage negotiator, but with a coupon for a free sundae. Of course, this is the tragedy of our times. Even with the coupon in hand, rumor has it the machine was still broken when he got inside. 3. Jury duty is practically a national phobia, but most people just lie about having a contagious rash to get out of it. One man, however, decided to turn the courthouse lobby into a circus act. When deputies found him juggling pineapples, yes, actual pineapples, near the metal detectors, he calmly explained he was distracting the spirits of justice. Because apparently, the legal system is haunted, and ghosts love tropical fruit. He then gave the officers an ultimatum. It's either this or jury duty. Security, not wanting to deal with a man who brings produce to court, chose option C, neither. He was escorted out, presumably to take his fruit-based spiritual warfare to a less litigious venue. 4. An aspiring artist in New York City decided the urban jungle was looking a little too inanimate for her liking. She was apprehended while methodically supergluing giant plastic googly eyes onto traffic signs. When the police asked for an explanation, she didn't claim vandalism. She claimed she was giving the city a face. She insisted a specific stop sign had been watching her for years and finally deserved some eyelashes to go with that judgmental red stare. It is a bold aesthetic choice, but the NYPD are notoriously harsh art critics. They canceled her exhibit immediately, leaving the stop signs blind, faceless, and strictly regulatory once again. 5. A man in Washington was caught filling potholes with uncooked ramen noodles and superglue. When the police arrived, he didn't stop. He claimed he was performing essential infrastructure surgery. He told the officers, "The city takes 6 months. The noodles take 2 minutes." Honestly, considering the state of the roads, he might be qualified for a job at the Department of Transportation. They fined him anyway, probably for wasting good soup. 6. Security guards are used to finding teenagers making out or homeless folks looking for warmth. But finding a man wandering a dark locked mall is a bit different. When cornered, this intruder didn't claim he was lost or hiding. He claimed he was just time-traveling badly. He looked genuinely frustrated, as if he aimed for the Renaissance and landed in front of a closed gap. When asked why he didn't just leave once the mission failed, he shrugged and said, "The portal closed. Blame the mall Wi-Fi." To be fair, considering how terrible public Wi-Fi usually is, relying on it for interdimensional travel was his first mistake. 7. Skipping gym class is a rite of passage, but usually the excuse involves a forgotten uniform or a mysterious limp. A student in this case decided to challenge the laws of physics themselves. After being busted for truancy, he told the administration he was boycotting gravity. He argued that physical education was nothing more than a daily reminder of Earth's oppressive pull, and as a free thinker, he refused to participate in such a heavy-handed system. You have to give him points for creativity. He tried to turn laziness into a civil rights movement against Isaac Newton. His teacher, presumably too exhausted to argue with that level of nonsense, just marked him absent. 8. A teenager in New Mexico caught smashing up a vending machine decided to frame his vandalism as a humanitarian rescue mission. When the police arrived, he didn't run. He proclaimed he was simply liberating the snacks from corporate captivity. It's a noble cause if you are hungry and broke. In a stroke of absolute genius, he then grabbed a liberated granola bar and offered it to the arresting officer as a peace offering. Trying to bribe a cop with the evidence you just stole is a bold legal strategy that they definitely do not teach in law school. Spoiler alert, the peace treaty was rejected, and he was taken into actual captivity. 9. It is always Florida, isn't it? A man turned the lighting aisle of a local Home Depot into his personal bedroom, and honestly, you almost have to respect the confidence. He wasn't just loitering, he had rigged up a full hammock between the display chandeliers and was settling in for a snooze. When the orange-aproned staff intervened, he didn't apologize. He explained he was testing the environment for nap optimization, noting that while the vibes were fluorescent, they were surprisingly peaceful. It's a bold move to seek tranquility under 5,000 lumens of industrial LEDs. He was escorted out, presumably to go leave a 1-star review on Yelp about the store's lack of hospitality. 10. The TSA has seen everything, but they weren't quite ready for the peanut butter economist. A traveler was stopped at airport security with 12 large jars of chunky peanut butter in his carry-on. That is way over the 3.4-ounce liquid limit, by the way. His explanation? He wasn't hungry. He was preparing to launch a peanut-based bartering system after the inevitable societal collapse. Apparently, in the wasteland, Skippy is the new Bitcoin. The agents confiscated the stash, likely fueling the break room for months, while wishing him luck with his nutty financial plan. Honestly, given current inflation, he might have been onto something. 11. A man in a suburban neighborhood was caught running a series of daisy-chained extension cords from his neighbor's outdoor Christmas display across the street to his own driveway. He wasn't stealing lights. He was trying to charge his Tesla. When the angry neighbor confronted him, the man didn't apologize for the theft. He called it community energy sharing. He boldly told the arriving officers, "Santa would want me to have a full battery. It's the season of giving, right?" The neighbor, staring at a projected $500 electric bill, disagreed with this festive redistribution of wealth and pressed charges. 12. Public transportation has rules, but one commuter decided they were merely suggestions. He attempted to board a crowded city bus while pushing a full-sized gas-powered lawnmower. When the driver refused to open the doors for the heavy landscaping equipment, the man became irate. He argued through the glass that it was his emotional support vehicle, claiming the vibration of the engine cuts through his anxiety. It is a clever pun, but the driver remained unmoved. He shut the doors and drove off, leaving the man and his noisy therapist stranded on the curb. 13. In Nebraska, where the excitement sometimes needs to be manufactured, a man was found decorating parked cars using a bottle of yellow mustard as his paintbrush. He was drawing smiley faces on hoods and doors, which is terrible for the car's finish but great for hot dogs. When the police asked what on earth he was doing, he beamed and replied, "I'm spreading condiment-based joy in a sad world." He was so committed to his mission that he even offered to upgrade the officer's cruiser with a winking face, free of charge. Strangely, the police declined the offer, preferring their vehicles without the scent of ballpark snacks. 14. California drivers will say anything to get out of a ticket, but this one takes the spiritual cake. Pulled over for license plates that were expired by a decade, the driver explained he couldn't renew them because he was living off the grid as an urban monk. He described his rusted sedan not as a vehicle, but as his mobile temple of detachment. He claimed to be detached from worldly concerns like the DMV and registration fees. The police officer, however, remained very much attached to the material world, specifically his ticket pad, and handed the monk a very expensive lesson in reality. 15. Public defenders are overworked, but this guy in Arizona was taking on a very specific, furry clientele. Parkgoers were alarmed to see him screaming complex legal jargon at a group of confused squirrels near a bench. When authorities approached, he insisted he wasn't disturbing the peace. He was acting as their attorney because they were facing serious acorn possession charges. It's nice to see someone looking out for the little guy, literally. Unfortunately, his clients weren't very cooperative. The squirrels fled the scene immediately, and judging by the look in his eyes, logic had fled long before they did. 16. Public libraries are generally tolerant places, but they draw the line at cold-blooded study buddies. A man was slapped with a lifetime ban for bringing his large pet iguana into the quiet zone. His defense was that she was his study partner. He told the horrified librarian, "She helps me concentrate. Also, she judges me when I procrastinate." To be fair, iguanas do have a very judgmental stare. But while the lizard seemed pretty chill about the whole situation, the library staff decided that reptile-based accountability wasn't covered in their policy handbook and showed them both the exit. 17. Calling in sick to work usually requires a fake cough, but one employee texted his boss that he couldn't come in because his fortune cookie predicted impending doom. He sent a photo of the cookie slip which read, "Stay put today." He argued that ignoring a baked goods advice was a safety violation. The boss wasn't impressed by the pastry-based prophecy and suggested he find a new job in a bakery. 18. Everything is bigger in Texas, including the terrible ideas. Police pulled over a man who was balancing a queen-sized mattress on top of a tiny, trembling electric scooter. He looked like a circus act gone wrong. When questioned about the safety of this setup, he explained he was simply downsizing his moving budget. As for the physics of the situation, he told the cop, "Gravity is just a suggestion. It's a confident stance to take right before you tip over into traffic." Spoiler alert, the mattress wasn't insured, and neither was his dignity. 19. Tax season drives everyone a little crazy, but most of us just cry quietly over our receipts. One man, however, embraced the madness. He was spotted dancing on top of a USPS mailbox, screaming that he was the tax season fairy. He claimed he was bringing refunds and regret to the people. To make matters worse, he started throwing fake W-2 forms made out of glitter paper at passersby. It was festive, sure, but highly illegal. That is definitely one way to get yourself audited. If not by the IRS, then certainly by the psychiatrists at the county hospital. 20. In the scorching heat of an Arizona summer, a refreshing dip is worth fighting for, but this guy took it a step too far. Caught crashing a high-end hotel pool, he didn't offer a room key or a membership card. He offered a divine mandate. He told the security team he was sent by Poseidon to inspect the chlorine levels. When they asked for his identification, he didn't reach for a wallet. He puffed out his chest and declared, "I am the ID." You have to admire the commitment to the bit. Unfortunately, the hotel staff were atheists regarding Greek mythology. They decided that even if he was the god of the sea, he was currently trespassing on private property, and they kicked Neptune back to the parking lot. 21. The DMV is a place where hope goes to die, so people will try literally anything to speed up the process. A woman in Nevada attempted to cut a 3-hour line by boldly walking to the front and claiming she was temporarily invisible. She insisted she had actually been standing there the whole time, but her molecules had just shifted out of phase. When a skeptical clerk asked for her name to check the appointment list, she leaned in and whispered, "You can't pronounce it in this dimension." It is a creative approach to bureaucracy, but the security guard, who deals with reality all day, made her reappear at the very back of the line. 22. city life requires innovation, but this is pushing the boundaries of sanitation. A man was spotted crouching over a steaming manhole cover in the middle of a busy street, roasting marshmallows on a stick. When authorities arrived, he denied being crazy. He claimed this was a geothermal s'mores experiment. He argued that the escaping urban heat was an untapped dessert frontier that could revolutionize street food. While the ingenuity is somewhat impressive, the fire chief was less enthusiastic about cooking food over sewer vapors. He told the aspiring chef to go buy a camping stove like a normal person before he caught hepatitis from a graham cracker. 23. Public transport is a magnet for eccentric behavior, but this woman raised the bar. She was found standing on a subway platform, passionately belting songs into a stale baguette, as if it were a high-end microphone. When officers intervened, she explained she was recording a gluten-based concept album. She even had a title ready, Wheat Dreams and Crumb Realities. She claimed the acoustics of the bread gave her voice a yeasty warmth. Honestly, considering some of the auto-tuned garbage on the radio today, I would probably stream that album at least once. The police, however, were not music critics and told her to take her bakery tour elsewhere. 24. Movie theater concession prices are highway robbery, so smuggling food is a moral obligation. But one guy in Michigan got caught with a jacket full of tacos and didn't back down. When the manager confronted him, he declared, "I have a medical condition. It's called being broke." He argued that paying $15 for popcorn was a health risk to his wallet. To make matters worse, he tried to classify his contraband nachos as emotional support snacks, claiming he couldn't handle the suspense of the film without cheese. The manager didn't buy the diagnosis, proving once again that capitalism has no sympathy for the hungry cinephile. 25. A driver in Washington state tried to cheat the carpool lane by placing a plastic skeleton in the passenger seat. When pulled over, he told the officer with a straight face, "He was alive when we hit this traffic." It's a solid commentary on the horrors of the morning commute. But the cop decided that the passenger count requires a pulse, not just a ribcage. The skeleton got a warning, the driver got a massive ticket. 26. In big cities, street performers who dress as statues are everywhere, so mistakes can happen. Maybe. A tourist in Chicago was fined for climbing onto a historic bronze monument. His defense? He genuinely thought it was a very stiff street performer, and he wanted a selfie. When the police asked how long it took him to realize the cold, hard metal wasn't a breathing human, he rubbed his bruised shin and admitted, "Long enough to regret it?" It is a special kind of oblivious to try and tip a national monument, but at least he learned the difference between art and employment the hard way. 27. A man tried to pay a toll booth operator with Monopoly money. When rejected, he argued that, due to inflation, this is actually worth more than the US dollar. He insisted that he owned Park Place and demanded respect. The operator, clearly not in the mood for board game economics, called the police. Turns out, the get-out-of-jail-free card doesn't work in real life either. 28. Casinos are designed to catch cheaters, so you need a better excuse than magic. When security swarmed a woman acting suspiciously at a high-stakes blackjack table, she was offended by the accusation of card counting. She claimed she wasn't cheating. She was simply deeply intuitive. She stared dramatically into the middle distance and whispered, "I see numbers in my dreams." It was a very mystical performance, almost worthy of a stage show. However, her psychic powers failed to predict that 3 large security guards were about to escort her out of the building. She might see numbers in her sleep, but she's banned from seeing them at the Bellagio. 29. We have all been in a rush to eat, but risking a traffic accident for lunch is next-level dedication. A driver in New Jersey blew right through a red light and, when pulled over, didn't claim his brakes failed. He told the officer he couldn't stop because his sandwich would have gotten soggy. He doubled down on this logic by explaining, "It had avocado. That stuff doesn't wait." Anyone who buys avocados knows the window of ripeness is about 30 seconds, so he has a point. The officer, however, preferred public safety over perfect guacamole and issued a ticket that cost more than the sandwich. 30. A man was caught climbing into the meerkat enclosure at a local zoo. When security grabbed him, he didn't struggle. He simply stated, "I'm reconnecting with my ancestors." He claimed he had been a sentinel in a past life and was just trying to take his shift. The zoo staff, preferring their meerkats untraumatized by confused humans, banned him for life. He's now presumably looking for a new family at the prairie dog exhibit. 31. Supermarkets have an unwritten rule about sampling, but this guy wrote his own laws. Caught devouring half a bag of grapes in the produce aisle without paying, he wiped his mouth and offered a philosophical defense. He told the store manager he was simply auditioning them for adoption. He then tried to use logic, asking, "You wouldn't buy shoes without trying them on, right?" It's a classic argument, except for the fact that trying on shoes doesn't involve digesting the leather. The store made him pay for the audition, proving that in the grocery world, if you break it or eat it, you buy it. 32. In Alabama, Southern hospitality apparently extends to the afterlife. A local man was discovered inside a cemetery, grilling hot dogs over a small fire using a rusty shovel as a frying pan. When police arrived at this macabre picnic, he remained calm. He told them, "The spirits are hungry and I was just being neighborly." He even pointed to a specific grave and claimed that the ghost there preferred ketchup. While feeding the dead is a nice sentiment, doing it with shovel dogs is a health code violation for both the living and the deceased. The officers shut down the paranormal barbecue, leaving the ghosts hungry. 33. Drunk driving is terrible, but this guy might have just been historically intoxicated. He was pulled over for weaving wildly between lanes while wearing a full metal knight's helmet, visor down. His explanation for the erratic driving? He told the officer he was practicing for a medieval Uber service. He claimed the helmet limited his vision but increased his honor. He then tried to bribe the cop by offering a coupon for one free noble ride on his trusty steed, which was a 2004 Honda Civic. The officer declined the quest, and the chariot was towed to the impound lot dungeon. 34. Public urination is a crime, but in Seattle you can try to spin it as environmentalism. When a police officer caught a man relieving himself behind a dumpster, the man didn't look ashamed. He zipped up and stated confidently, "I'm watering the earth. It's a sacred act." He tried to frame his misdemeanor as a contribution to the local ecosystem. The officer, having heard every excuse in the book, simply replied, "Well, the earth is pressing charges." Unfazed, the man nodded solemnly and said, "Tell her I'll meditate on that." Spoiler: he did his meditating in a holding cell. 35. Traffic stops are stressful, but one woman in Oregon decided to treat the highway like a Nintendo game. After being pulled over for blowing through a red light, she didn't cry or apologize. Instead, she explained to the officer that she was playing a real-life version of Mario Kart with her boyfriend, who was in the car behind her. She actually asked the unamused cop if she could use her mushroom boost to get out of the ticket. It is a bold strategy to treat a traffic felony like a video game level. The officer hit her with the legal equivalent of a blue shell, a massive fine, proving that in the real world, there is no reset button. 36. We have all looked for excuses for failing a test, but a teenager in Ohio looked to the heavens. Confronted with his abysmal test scores, he didn't blame a lack of studying or too much video gaming. He claimed, "Mercury was in retrograde and completely scrambled my brainwaves." Apparently, the planetary alignment had a personal vendetta against his algebra skills. He audaciously asked the teacher if he could retake the exam when the stars align. The school administration, grounded firmly on Earth, decided that his grade was written in the stars, and unfortunately for him, the stars spelled out an F. 37. We all hate airline baggage fees, but a man at an airport took it to the extreme. He was caught wearing 15 shirts and 9 pairs of pants to avoid checking a bag. He looked like the Michelin Man having a heat stroke. When security stopped him, he waddled forward and gasped, "I am not a passenger, I am my own luggage." He eventually passed out from heat exhaustion, which is one way to miss a flight. 38. Self-care has gone too far. A man found curled up inside a large industrial dryer at a laundromat wasn't hiding from the mob. He was just trying to relax. He told the terrified staff he was trying to shrink his stress, insisting that the tumble cycle had therapeutic properties that yoga just couldn't match. While the idea of being spun at high speeds in a metal drum does sound distracting, it is also lethal. Security decided to cancel his spa day before someone accidentally turned the machine on and dry cleaned his soul. He was asked to find a less heated way to deal with his anxiety. 39. This might be the most relatable excuse on the list. A woman hauled in for missing jury duty explained to the judge that she genuinely thought the summons was a scam. She said, "I get so many robocalls that when I heard court summons, I just yelled, 'Unsubscribe,' and hung up." Honestly, considering how many times we get called about our car's extended warranty, it is a valid mistake. The judge, however, was less sympathetic to her plight against telemarketers. He made sure she understood that the American legal system doesn't have an opt-out button no matter how loudly you scream into the receiver. 40. A man was detained for wading into a mall fountain and fishing out the coins. His defense? He wasn't stealing. He was working as a financial lifeguard. He told security he was saving the money from drowning. It's a heroic spin on petty theft, but the mall administration preferred the coins stay submerged. He was escorted out, wet, broke, and without a single penny of his rescue money. 41. Florida man strikes again, this time with a mystical agenda. Police stopped a man on the beach who had arranged a massive, unauthorized bonfire surrounded by a circle of tiki torches. When asked what on earth he was doing, he didn't say he was cold. He said, "I was trying to summon a beach goddess named Brenda." Not Aphrodite, not Venus, Brenda. Authorities had to break the news that Brenda was likely fictional, or at least not interested in his fire safety violations. They put out the flames, and his love life remained just as cold as the ocean breeze. 42. Fast food workers do not get paid enough for this. A man in Idaho rolled his Segway through a drive-through lane, which is already weird, but he did it entirely in reverse. When the confused employee at the window asked why, he proclaimed it was a metaphor for the economy. It is deep, sure, but also incredibly inconvenient for the people waiting for their burgers behind him. The cashier didn't want a lecture on inflation or fiscal regression. She just wanted him to take his fries and roll away, forward, backward, or sideways, as long as he left the premises. 43. In Utah, a driver was pulled over for swerving all over the highway, but he swore it wasn't alcohol. He told the officer he had just spotted a UFO and was swerving to maintain eye contact in case it was reading his thoughts. He didn't want to break the psychic connection with the mothership. It is a creative defense, but the officer wasn't buying the interstellar alibi. He reportedly replied, "Well, let's do a breathalyzer and make sure you're not being abducted by tequila." Turns out the only thing out of this world was his blood alcohol level. 44. A woman was arrested after scaling a restricted cellular tower, causing a minor panic among emergency services. When firefighters finally reached her, she wasn't fixing a cable. She was holding her phone up to the horizon. She claimed she was trying to get a better signal to upload a selfie because the lighting at ground level was tragic. She shouted that her followers deserved high-definition content. While she didn't get the upload speed she wanted, she definitely got the attention she craved, along with a trespassing charge and a very unflattering mugshot. 45. Bringing a parent to a job interview is a red flag, but one applicant brought his mother to do all the talking. When the hiring manager asked him a question, the guy stayed silent while his mom chimed in, "He's a very good boy who works hard." The applicant later explained, "She's my agent, hype man." Needless to say, he didn't get the position, but his mom is probably still proud of him anyway. 46. Gym culture has officially gone too far. A police officer in Ohio was stunned to pull over a car where the driver had both bare feet sticking out of the window while the vehicle was in motion. The driver's excuse? He was stretching because it was leg day. When the officer asked why he wasn't at least wearing shoes, the man scoffed, "Shoes restrict performance." It is hard to argue with that level of dedication to fitness, but the officer managed to find a counter-argument in the form of a massive reckless driving fine. Apparently, safety restricts performance too. 47. In Mississippi, a man caught stealing plastic arms from a department store display had a heartbreakingly hilarious explanation. He wasn't selling them. He told police he was building a high-five machine to battle loneliness. He had even named his invention the Optimus 3000. It sounds like a plot from a quirky indie movie, but it was just petty theft. The cherry on top? In his mugshot, he allegedly gave 2 thumbs up, proving that even without his machine, he was trying to stay positive behind bars. You almost want to high-five him yourself. 48. Courtrooms require decorum, but one defendant in Florida didn't get the memo. During a hearing, he interrupted the judge to loudly declare, "I identify as legally confusing." When the baffled judge asked if he understood the charges against him, the man replied, "I plead the 5th, and maybe the 6th, just in case." Mixing up constitutional amendments like a cocktail didn't help his case. The judge decided to simplify things for him by identifying him as guilty and sending him back to a cell where he could study the Bill of Rights in peace. 49. Finally, in Georgia, a driver decided to blame the supernatural for his lead foot. Immediately after rolling down his window during a routine traffic stop, he blurted out, "I swear I wasn't speeding. My foot was possessed." As the officer stood there, blinking in disbelief, the driver whispered a clarification. "It only happens on Tuesdays." It is a very specific, demonic possession schedule. The officer, presumably an exorcist of traffic violations, handed him a ticket, which is the only known cure for a haunted gas pedal. I want to know the absolute worst lie you have ever told to get out of trouble. But here is the catch. Tell me the one that failed the hardest. Did you blame the dog, the weather, your evil twin? Spill your most embarrassing defeat in the comments so we can all judge you. And if you don't want to be arrested for crimes against logic, hit that subscribe and like buttons right now.